Go ahead and call the meeting to order. Nellie, would you call the roll?
Here.
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 Murphy. Here. Lidell.
Here. All right, if anybody's here for stuff that's not on the agenda, please see Alexa. She will take care of you. And we'll take that up at the end of the meeting. If it's on the agenda, we'll have time for you to address it during the meeting. The first item up is the consent agenda. We are going to remove items B and D because those applications were not complete. And then we would like to move item F to new business. So with that, we would ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda for items A, C, and E.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda for items A, C, and E.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion from the board? Nellie?
Yes.
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 Yes. All right. First up are staff reports. Ms. Vasquez.
Yes, sir. I do not have anything additional to add unless the board has any questions on the report.
Anything for Christy?
Nope.
All right. On to new business. We'll do item F first. That is a facade grant application for 647 South Commerce. The other items, if you were let's see, nobody cares about the minutes. 305 and 120 North Ridgewood, you're approved. So if you don't want to stay, you don't have to. The facade grant, the reason it was pulled was we do have palette colors that are standard for the use in the historic area in downtown district. And that one is a shade off. And so rather than just approving it under the consent agenda, it was brought down under new business in case the board had anything that they wanted to discuss about it. Otherwise, we'll take a motion to approve it.
I'll make a motion to approve it. To approve the facade grant application for 647 South Commerce Avenue.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion from the board. Anything from the public? Nellie?
Yes.
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 Yes. And that's simply to preserve our continuity, is that we do things the same way. So there might be a color that's not on the palette that we didn't like next time. We'll see. Next up is the draft budget. In case you guys did not review it, we did get our TIF numbers in. I would like to make one comment about that they are up 20% from the previous year, a little over 20% if I'm not mistaken. One of the goals that we have had for a long time has been, or that we've measured our success by, has been the increase in revenue that's attributed to the increase in property values within the district. And we've had that now consecutively for a couple of years, and this year being our largest increase. So I think it is worth noting that, what we're doing is working. So that's your revenue number that you'll see at the bottom. The other items, most of them, especially general operating and stuff like that, is going to be the same. We're going to talk about grants a little bit specifically. The purpose of tonight's budget is just to put it in front of the board, give you guys time to kind of digest it. It's going to come back to you at the next meeting for final approval. One of the big changes that is in there that is different from last year, we have struggled with law enforcement in the downtown area and having, I'm going to say, adequate presence. The city Sebring Police Department is challenged, to say the least, with having enough officers to meet the requirements to patrol all the areas, and they basically, and then they lose guys and gals to other agencies because of pay or whatever. From time to time, they've had some who have just gotten into the career and decided it wasn't for them. I had a meeting with Sheriff Blackman after I had a conversation with Chief Hoagland about trying to create a mounted patrol. Kind of had this vision of deputies on horseback. He has not been able to find volunteers that want to do mounted patrol, but he said he does have officers who are willing to pull extra duty to patrol the downtown. So one of the things that Christy and I started kicking around after we got the numbers for what it would cost from the sheriff was trying to have two deputies that would patrol the downtown area and we're kind of making this up because we want to get y'all's input, but like a 10 to 2, 10 to 4, something like that on weekdays, and then special events. They would have a dual mandate. It would be first and foremost law enforcement, and then second would also be to act as ambassadors to the downtown. So when we have visitors that are in the downtown area, they would be people that are approachable, that you could go up and ask a question. Hey, where's Sophie's Cafe? Where's the soda shop? Where's all the things that they're coming to visit? That kind of stuff, and be able to point them in the right direction. Or if they just had, general questions, where can I park? There's a lot of things if you're new to the area you might not know. So we kind of backed into a number, which is somewhere around 125,000, I think. And then we beefed it up for special events to incorporate that as well. So that's where that 200 came from. That's in your budget. That's probably the most notable change that's in there. Most of the other stuff is going to be very similar to what it was last year. Some of it did get cut back if we didn't, like, for example, a grant that didn't get used as much, it might have gotten scaled back a little bit. So with that, I'm going to open it up for questions, comments, and see what kind of discussion y'all want to have tonight. Like I said, it's going to come back to you at the next meeting still.
David, on the law enforcement, those are not officers that would have been on duty somewhere else for a PD. It's additional officer.
Correct. They would be sheriff's deputies that would be tasked with. And that's a great question, actually. They would be special dutied over to us, but they would be kind of all from the same pool, because they would go through a training program that would educate them on the stuff that we need done in the downtown, as if, for example, the ambassador side of it.
But it would be additional to their regular staffing
Correct.
levels at that point
Correct.
in time. Okay.
Yes.
And they would be devoted to downtown, like previous years when we had somebody that was like the downtown.
Right. They would be on the clock for us, just like if you hired them to work for you, they would be hired to
So
work for
are
us.
we paying them overtime?
No.
Okay.
No. One of the challenges that the sheriff did bring up was, from time to time, they will have opportunities for them to earn overtime, which would pay them more. So when they're trying to choose between this, private duty or overtime, they're typically going to go towards the
So we're
overtime.
considered private duty?
Yes.
Okay.
They would still have the full authority that they would have while they're on regular patrol and everything else. They would just be tasked with working for us in a designated area. So they can make arrests, they can write traffic tickets, they can enforce
And
the
that
law
would be their primary
while they're on with us.
goal. But then if people see them, they could ask some questions. So they
Correct.
would go through additional training.
Yeah, they wouldn't be, kind of the way the sheriff put it, they would not be people standing holding up a brick wall or something like that. They would be moving around. They'll probably be on bicycles, just making sure that there's not problems. Times we discussed some of the times of days where we have kind of heightened concerns. They would be very visible during those times and in those areas that would address those issues.
Okay. What about any additional CRA office staffing for increased foot traffic? Are we not at that point?
Well, I don't believe we're at that point yet.
Okay.
Are we having incidents that are causing us concern that we need to address by adding law enforcement downtown?
That's a really good question too. I wouldn't say that we necessarily have problems, but we don't have a law enforcement presence that would deter any of the problems that we have had. The two biggest issues that we have in the downtown area, particularly when you talk about like the Circle area, are going to be homeless people loitering and middle school kids after school gets out. So the intention is that if they see these people, they will find someplace else to be, and not in the public eye of where our visitors are going to be most likely congregated.
So will they be like into the early evening hours and kind of like base it off of like daylight savings type of thing, or?
That's where it kind of comes into, what do we think our need is going to be? We have not told the sheriff exactly what our need is. In my head, the high traffic time for visitors is about 10 to 2, 4. It originally was 10 to 2, but then when I thought about like the middle school kids getting out, that kind of made me want to push it down to 4 o'clock. After that, it would really be the responsibility of the Sebring Police Department. If there are issues, that they would have to show up, but they're not going to have anybody down there designated for that, but they do respond to the calls.
Unless
So, like,
special
4 or 5.
events, those would be
Correct.
after hours.
So like a 4 or 5 o'clock, we would have people. I mean, because like I feel like 10, 11 o'clock, you're not really like, I think
Right.
it's a little bit later from just like what we see in the Circle of like people just kind of hanging out in certain areas. Like it seems to err on the later side of the early afternoon, if that makes sense, like the between like 3 to 5
Yes.
is what just like what I've seen.
I think that's true. And if we needed to like say, okay, let's go, and it can be whatever we want. It's about $55 an hour, $50 an hour for them, and they want to operate in pairs. So you're looking at $100 an hour. So we could add an extra hour on, or we could say let's move it to 11 to
Like
5,
11 to
Like we
5
could
is
kind of
11 to
flex
5.
it based on,
and we can change this as we go, and as we notice, okay, well, there's we have more problems later in the afternoon.
yeah, I mean, maybe they split it up so we can kind of identify,
Yes,
like just kind of like rotate
and we could do that too.
just to see like where it's making a bigger impact or something like that.
And my hope, and I don't know that this has any truth to it at all, but my hope would be that if we have our own deputies down there during 6 hours of the day, that once they come off their shift with us, that the police department would have been able to utilize that time for other stuff, and then officers would be available in the early evening until things kind of quiet down.
So, can we ask for some feedback from some of the business owners in the audience on
Sure.
that? I mean, I'm just looking, like, I see Sophie's Soda Shop, Don's here. Like, just from, I mean, I'm just going off of what I see
Yeah.
outside of our office or when we're walking around. But, like, do any of you guys have any feedback on, like, time of day when you feel like it would be most impactful to have, like, an officer patrolling for just, like, extra visibility, people just kind of hanging out that maybe.
And if you're gonna talk to us, come on up to the podium, because we got this on YouTube and they want to be able to hear it at home.
I mean, I just think having
Like
you
and
guys here is
subscribe.
great to maybe get some of y'all's feedback.
Yep.
I'd say from starting at 11 o'clock, you sometimes see them roaming around, and
Mm-hmm.
from 11 to my input, 11 to 4, 11 to 5,
Yeah.
and maybe a little heavier Friday, Saturdays.
Okay. I think that's great. Thank you.
How is it in the evening? Like,
Like
and
after 6.
say, and especially talking about like Thursday through Saturday.
I want to say you see them a little more between Thursday to Saturday till about 7 o'clock.
Okay.
So, but
Okay.
it's also hit or miss depending on the day, activity, foot traffic.
Okay.
We might just
I
have to
think that would
adjust
help
that.
with every business in downtown because there is a couple of them.
How was it today? Was today the first day of school?
Today was good, but
Okay.
also the Natalie from Sebring PD, she came in around. She came twice. She came at 2. She came at 4.
Okay.
So that did
Hopefully
help.
the changes
Plus,
what's
I'm
happening
there.
there will kind of straighten some
Yeah.
of that mess up.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
And the rest of y'all?
Anybody else? Any
Don?
You know, Don Davies, I've been working on that deck back there. There's an interesting group of people that wander the Wall Street.
Yeah.
And you wonder if they're homeless, but you're not really sure.
Mm.
They are from Magnolia House.
Okay.
And you will mistake them for homeless people. And I watched one of them the other day walk past me. 15 minutes later, he's walking past with a woman's bicycle. He is not riding it, just walking it back to Magnolia House. So you need to be aware of that bunch over there. They're not logical.
What time of day was that, Don?
5 minutes to 12, 5 minutes at noon.
Okay.
And I had my guy following, figure out where he went. And I called the police department. They said, we have no reports of stolen bicycles, so we don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and so, but
I think the best thing that'll come out of this is just the presence. And I think that'll change the dynamic overall.
yeah, but a
Fairly-
lot of
fairly
stuff
quickly.
happens in the alleyways. You know, that's where they're traveling, if you will. It's not
Out
very
in the
often
open.
out front.
Right.
Well, they can go back in there too. They don't
Yep.
have to just be confined to the circle.
Yeah.
Hi, AJ. So actually last week I actually called Sebring Police to be for a homeless couple going in when it was raining to a vacant building just out from our office. I think you actually remember it. And so I've noticed a lot more. We're a lot further down, but as the rain is picking up and stuff, that's when I'm noticing people kind of going into like behind our gate. And I don't want to say looking for shelter, but they're looking for something. So I've noticed it a lot more. I don't think it's a certain time frame or anything that you're seeing it. We come out, me and my wife, and have nights out on Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. Don't really see anybody that's causing trouble from my point of view. But again, as a business owner, it's more just sitting in the office, seeing people going into areas they probably shouldn't. I don't know if the police officers during that time being down there is going to make it any different. So that's just my 2 cents, but what I've noticed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I read that there was a suggestion to have more cameras. Is that part of any like grant for businesses downtown?
No, we don't have a grant for that, and we do have cameras that are all over the circle and in the downtown area already. But the downfall about that is they only capture it after it's happened, and it's
Right.
hard to catch them.
And then have you spoken with the homeless coalition or any of the other
No.
homeless? Because that, you know what I mean? If there is some type of collaborative effort, or maybe a bike rodeo, not for kids. homeless,
Yeah.
maybe that could help. But that was just a question. And also in the evening, because sometimes my office is by Sophie's, so
Mhm.
sometimes in the evening there are people who are houseless that are walking and looking for shelter, especially in the Haynes
Yes.
building. So maybe in that 6 to 8-ish area when the sun is coming down, some patrol would be nice.
Okay. Yep. Nope. That's good. Thank you. One of the issues or one of the things that I would say this is not necessarily meant to address, the homeless issue is a big problem that we have downtown. And there's a couple of different agencies and organizations that are working with that. Some of it helps, some of it doesn't. But that really is more of the city's problem to try to address. And we've tried to work with them and make suggestions and stuff like that, but it just hasn't gone anywhere because it hasn't become necessarily a big enough issue for the city to deal with, I would say, I guess at this point. But this is the only way that I know to try to combat it is to keep them moving along. And if they see a police presence, that hopefully that would do that. I mean, because the main goal is to create an environment that's going to make people feel safe when they're either visiting or working in the downtown area. That's kind of the goal of this. Any other comments?
No, I think that was helpful to me, just like on the time frame, because like I've noticed around lunchtime, I've noticed a little like 5 o'clock, and I feel like it might be what Don said, like maybe Magnolia House or like some of that where it's just a little uncomfortable, and you're like, what's where are you like why are you hanging out here type of thing. So I think having the increased presence is going to help tremendously, but it's good to hear from other businesses that they feel like that too, you know, so then it feels like it's a good investment in the additional budget.
No, I agree. And that's the whole purpose, is to try to create that safe environment. I mean, there's no reason that anybody should walk out at noon towards the circle or be in the downtown area and not feel safe. And so that's what this is supposed to do, is to try to make people feel safer and that it's a friendly place.
No, I like that. And I think as long as the police department's flexible on timing, if we start to see increases at other times, or that they notice that there's really nothing happening, whether they're, when they're there at 11 o'clock or something like that, that we're able to adjust it and everything, I think that would be great.
Nope, and we absolutely will. So, one of the things that the sheriff suggested was he wanted to have one of the deputy, or I don't know if I guess he's a deputy, that oversees the watch patrol to come to one of our meetings, probably in October, just to hear from the board and gather all of our concerns and input, and then use that to go ahead and create that schedule. So right now I told the sheriff that we were kind of in the budget process and we wanted to try to put some numbers in there. In the past, we've had about $98,000, I want to say, slated for a full-time law enforcement officer, but it's been there for a number of years. And just due to staffing issues that go on to the Sebring level, this seemed like something that we could do. And it's a increase, but we were looking for one officer. Now we're going to have multiple ones who can be dedicated to being in the downtown.
I think it's great.
So, other than that, there's not a whole lot of change. Do y'all have other questions about the budget? Other concerns, questions? All right, if not, there's no action needed. It's going to come back to you at the next meeting for your final approval. So you've got the next month to go through it.
David, one quick
Yeah,
thing.
go ahead.
I'm sorry. The debt service and principal payments is listed in there. Is that projected for the upcoming year or?
Yes.
Those are directly from our amortization schedule.
Okay. So it's, how close is that tied to what would be actually spent?
So we've still got money in the bank, if you will, that we haven't spent from that. In the past, we have had basically they offset each other because you had the money was put into
Invested.
treasury bonds,
Yep.
and so the interest that was generated from that was offsetting the interest from the loan. We spent about $1 million of it last year on various projects, mainly the HGTV event. So the revenue that we would have received has decreased a little bit,
Sure.
but we still have, I believe, $2 million sitting in a treasury bond. And
Next
But
month.
this is projected just on that original loan. There's no
Correct.
additional funds out of the long term.
Correct.
correct. Any other questions? All right, then we will bring it back to you at the next meeting. That takes us over to our work plan and grants. So for next year coming up, you will see to the right place. There is a CRA work plan, and our big projects are going to include, and these are not necessarily related to a dollar amount. They're just projects that we are wrapping up and whatnot. So Wachovia is our first one. 305 Circle Park, the Nancessory lot, and Bank of America are our big ones. We are working with the city's purchasing department to get our, is it an RFP that we have to put out for the lighting and safety?
We will end up doing an RFP, yes.
So there's they're putting the RFP together. That will go out. It's going to be based off of that Atkins plan and the input that the board had to where we went through and picked, okay, we want to do this, we don't want to do that, to try to get pricing for what it's going to cost. And then what I've talked to Scott Natelick about at the city is we would like to get the RFP done and be able to begin work on that project. So that's going to incorporate the downtown area. It's going to incorporate over by West Center and Lakeview, Washington Heights, and then the Wall Street ring that goes around the circle. There's been a lot of lighting improvements that have happened on the circle. We're going to work with the city to see if there's anything else that needs to be done. A separate one, and I don't know if that's on here or not. No, it's not. We also want to move forward with the, we had planned to do basically 3 years of replacing the antique lights that are down there so they all match. We're going to continue with that. The city has purchased the SunTrust building, and we've had some very, very preliminary conversations with them about participating and helping with the parking lot over there to have it redesigned to where it would accommodate more people. It would be a public parking lot. Talked about the sheriff's office in their detail. We have on there a new CRA office, and we have that on there because there's been conversation about the best use of the current office, and there have been people who have had an interest in turning that into a retail space. So what we have said with our conversation with the city has been that we are more than amenable to moving the office location. We don't necessarily feel that the CRA has to be on the circle, but we have to find a new home. So it's on there. We don't have anything identified at the moment. We've had a couple of conversations with other places to look at space, whether it be a purchase or a lease agreement, but we don't have anything really on the radar right now. But should we identify something, it's kind of, we wanted y'all to, be aware of that. The old power plant, the brownfield remediation, the city has been in the process of getting input for our, I guess they're working on getting the results from a study that was done to determine what kind of remediation might need to be done, what sort of problems are there. They don't have that report back yet, but there's been consideration of potentially transferring that property to the CRA because we would be eligible for grants that the city would not be eligible for. And the easiest explanation of that is there are grants available to organizations who have property with brownfield issues that didn't cause the problem. And since the city has owned this thing since it was developed, they don't have the same access. So it would give us the opportunity to finish the remediation and then look at trying to dispose of that property in the future. That may or may not show up this year. It's just part of a conversation, and we wanted to make sure y'all were all included in it. Any questions on the work plan or comments?
David,
Yes, sir.
the need for the RFP is just because we projected cost over threshold?
Correct. Anything else?
And that was just a phase, correct? That was not the complete plan.
Right. I don't think the board was looking to do the complete plan. I think some of the things that were suggested we didn't feel were necessary, or were going to be too costly for us to take on.
But the stuff that we agreed on, we're not phasing that. That's going to be all in.
That's how we're going to put it out for the RFP.
Okay.
And then I think that the best thing would be to bring it back to the board and have the board weigh in on whether it's a one-time shot or do you want to break it up over. Yeah.
Okay.
And I would imagine that's largely due to cost.
That might change the requirement for the RFP.
No.
No.
No,
Okay.
I think the RFP will go out and then we would select the
Based
person.
it off
Yeah.
of that. Okay.
And then we would just have to be aware that, you know, if we change kind of the requirement, the prices could be different, but, you know, we would try to enter into a contract of what we want, our expectation would be.
I got you. Okay.
Anybody else? All right, next is grants. The grant programs that we have listed out that have been successful in the past. Cafe seating, there's still a couple of businesses that are working on things that might require additional cafe seating in addition to what we've already put out there through HGTV. Our facade grant is out there. That one might need some conversation. I know you and I have talked before about, you know, whether it's verbiage or adding. And then we wanted to rename our downtown revitalization grant to the commercial interior grant, just because it seemed more descriptive of what the grant is actually for.
Mhm.
And our last one is the commercial rental incentive grant. All of this is going to come back to you at the next meeting. And the commercial rental incentive grant was one that was brought up a little while ago. And it basically would be, we've bought buildings in the past. And one of the reasons we did that was because it gave us the control over what was going to go into those spaces. We wanted to see how the board would feel about looking at lease space that we could lease and then sublease to people who we would then have the control over. That would give us the ability to, you know, make on specific cases, you know, do we need to, if we're renting it for, and I'll make this up, we're renting it for $2,000 for the space. We have a great business that wants to come in. They can't afford two, then especially in the first year, but they could afford one. So maybe we incentivize them for the first year and then they roll into the full thing, but it would give the board the complete control over who those businesses are and then what the terms of that lease are. The hope is that by going to some of the business owners with the idea that we would be willing to sign a long-term lease in exchange for being able to sublease it would be beneficial to the downtown. So those are the 4 grant programs that we have listed out. Again, you don't have to vote on these tonight. We're simply looking for input from the board this evening. We can make whatever tweaks we need to them, and then we'll bring it back for full approval at the next meeting.
I'm still not really a fan of the rental incentive program. I feel like the vacant areas that could be for rent aren't for rent, and providing this type of incentive, I feel like is going to drive rents up, and we're going to be footing the bill. That's my concern with it. I would almost want to have like a subcommittee meeting with the building owners that have those. I mean, I feel like it's a very interesting scenario that we have in our downtown with the
Savings.
vacancies, and it's not that people won't go in there, it's that they're not available and that the building owners aren't leasing.
one of the issues and which sparked this idea came kind of from that, and it's sometimes we get landlords who just say, I don't want to rent because they're tired of kind of the revolving door. I don't know if they don't know how to vet these people when they're coming in or what, but they're turning away potential good renters just because they don't want the hassle, or they're making enough money Airbnb the apartments upstairs. There's no guarantee that this would even fly with them.
But then what happens when it changes the dynamic of other buildings, that maybe there's people whose leases are getting ready to come up and someone's like, well, let's just not renew the lease and see what we can get with the incentive program to increase our rent.
But we will not be obligated at any point to engage in any of that. So
Correct.
I mean,
Right.
it doesn't
True.
it doesn't force our hand if the property owner sets unrealistic expectations on their next lease because
But
they think
then
the CRA is going to
Do
bail
we,
them out.
so
We don't
do we,
have to.
do we set what realistic expectations would be? So there's a guideline, because I think that's my concern, is if we go into it and we're like, well, we just really want a boutique downtown, or we really think that this would be great. And then $5,000 a month later, we're like, this was a really bad idea, and like, what's that realistic expectation? And maybe you're able to kind of help set a little bit of from like what you see from the EDC, or we can have Rachel help with some of those guidelines. But I feel like we've got to have a really strong middle ground of where we're willing to go, so it doesn't get out of control. Because I'm just concerned about, because if they were being leased and it was just a revolving door of people not being able to be successful, that's one thing, but they're just not being leased at all.
Right.
So I think that's where my concern lies, is that it's not like we have a completely vacant downtown. We have a couple of buildings that are not leasing.
So I would, in my mind, and I'm only speaking as one individual on this, in my mind, this would have to be a case by case thing. I can't think of a piece of real estate other than my office, in case y'all want to rent it, that would go for $5,000.
I'm just throwing a number out there.
Well,
I'm just
but-
throwing an unrealistic number out there.
So whatever that number might be, I mean, but just kind of piggybacking off your example, I think the board would have the opportunity to turn that down. So if I was a landlord on the Circle and I was getting market rate, let's just say that's $2,000, and I thought I was going to fleece the CRA, kick my guy out, and then come back to y'all and say, hey, you can lease it for $4,000 a square foot. I think the board should say, no, let's not. I mean, we will lease, we lease at market rate, and it's $2,000, and you lost a good tenant, and and there's other stipulations that would have to be in there too. I mean, we'd have to have, be able to have concessions for, build outs and stuff like that. I mean, it's
Would there
very
be-
simplistic on here. It's more complicated.
Would it be kind of like an RFP process almost? Like, how would that
we
work?
would handle it the same way that we handle the rest of our properties. So in discussing it with our attorney, we have the ability to do it, and for less than market value, if that's what we were offering over concessions for a certain period of time, we would do it the exact same way that we do our property dispositions. Just instead of it being the way that we're structuring now, the 5-year lease to own, it would just be a lease scenario.
Yeah, I see the same thing. A space become available. The CRA approaches the owner and says, are you interested? Some sort of negotiation happen up front, and then we go out and look for a tenant, see if anybody's interested in that space. We don't have to commit.
So we
until
would
we
put
have
it out
somebody
for
to
like
put
an
in.
advertisement or
Correct.
something
And
like
we
that?
would welcome proposals the same way that we do for our properties
Okay.
now. And there's also the incentive to provide a more competitive proposal because you're going up against other people.
So it wouldn't just be like, I want a cafe seating grant and I'm going to put in my proposal. So
Correct.
we have,
Correct.
Yeah, very good point.
There is
I mean,
still
that's
a way
kind
that
of
we
where-
have to evaluate them based on what statute governs for how we're offering something other than market value.
so would we have a certain amount of money in, like, how would we budget for something like that? Because that could be a pretty big number. How would we identify? I mean, I know that's kind of the question, I think, with all the grant programs, but would we have some kind of a,
So-
like,
I think that you don't have to, just because you're going to lease from us doesn't mean that you're guaranteed or you're going to lease for less than market value. That's not really what we're going after. So the building next to you, I had a conversation with the owner of that property and was just sort of spitballing to see if this was any interest. And his first comment to me was, well, I think I've already got the guys from Raymond James who want to come down and put an office there. And that's a part of what sparked some of this because, I mean, love Raymond James, but is that the best use for a space on the circle, or would you rather see the boutique? Would you rather see something that's going to be more inviting to people who are visiting that are going to walk around and the only way that we're ever going to have any say in that process is if we have either the ownership of the building, or in this case could be the people leasing it. So and I'm glad you brought that part up. This would not be treated like a facade grant or something like that that just goes consent agenda and boom, here we're on our way. It would be much more similar to the disposition process we go through with interviews and committees and stuff like that.
Okay.
It basically will let us manage the same process without taking ownership of the property.
Absolutely.
We just would have to have the cooperation of the
Correct.
building owners.
And in talking to a handful of them, not all of them, but a handful of them, there is absolutely no guarantee that they're going to bite on any of this.
Gotcha.
You know, some of them are completely fine with their downstairs being, you know, signs in the window and not doing anything.
But even if it doesn't get utilized, it's still a tool that we
Correct.
would have to our disposal to be able to.
That's exactly
to
right.
manage.
Yes.
Okay.
So again,
I feel a little better, just with the dialogue. I just was a little concerned with it turning into,
like free for all.
yes,
Mhm.
exactly.
Sure.
And setting precedents that we might not want to set, and creating additional work and things like that, that maybe we just want to be careful of, that's all. But I think if we have to manage it the same way as the disposition process, it would be work for them to put in.
Yes.
So it's not, there would be presentations, there would be business plans, there would be requirements. So I would
Yeah.
feel better about that for sure.
And I think that since everybody except for Sarah Beth so far, you'll get to be on the next one. Oh, and congratulations, by the way. I forgot to say at the beginning of the meeting. She had her baby.
Oh my gosh, congratulations. We only get to see you from here up, right?
But if you've sat on any of these, it gives you the opportunity. You see the good ones, you see the bad ones, you know the ones that are never going to work, and you know, it isn't that hard of a process to kind of weed those out and get to what is going to be successful. I mean, I would not want to put somebody in a space, whether we owned it or leased it, that we were concerned over what year 2 was going to look like. You know, I mean, there would have to be a path, even if we were willing to grant some kind of incentive. And really, I would say the control is the bigger priority. You need to be aware you would have the authority and the ability to, you know, negotiate that lease term with whoever you're picking. But if they never had a path to get to where they could afford market rate rent, that wouldn't be a good proposal.
Right.
So
And then would they pay rent to the CRA and the CRA pays rent, or the CRA is giving the owner some form of a credit?
we're working that out.
Okay,
I don't
gotcha.
have that answer yet
Okay.
because
Well,
there is some legality around
how that would work.
Mhm.
Okay.
So
Bigger conversation than with the attorney, right?
Yeah.
Let them figure it out. Okay.
I hope so. Any other comments about that?
Are there other CRAs that are doing that?
That's a good question.
That's a great question. Not that I've necessarily looked into in that aspect, but I
Okay.
certainly can. I went to our attorney first.
I wouldn't be surprised though. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't sound like it's that far fetched.
Kind of like
Not for us.
kind of like an anchor. It's kind of like an anchor type of grant.
Like an anchor tenant kind of grant
Mhm.
is what it would be similar to.
Well, we can ask
Yeah,
around and
let's
see
do
if we
that.
can find out.
I was just thinking, I know our attorney represents multiple CRAs, so I didn't know if he had
Right.
That'd be a good question to ask Cliff. Yeah.
Yeah, and if there is, it'd be good to compare how it's structured.
Right.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Oh no.
Any others? Okay, so it's there for you to marinate on, and then we will bring it back to you to approve at the next meeting. We'll try to get some other answers for that last grant prior to the meeting. The rest of them are ones we've done in the past, and unless there's stuff you want to add into that facade grant.
I think the language that Christian is probably pretty simple enough to catch that. I don't see a problem with just what you had added there, to be honest with you. I mean, it wouldn't hurt maybe to get Greg's input to see if he had, if there's any complications that comes along with that language or a way to streamline it, but I think will accomplish what we need.
Okay.
It just sort of puts an authority there that says this has to happen or doesn't have to happen, and it takes the onus off of us to try and
Yes.
weed out what's legit and what's not.
Agreed. Okay.
So
Uh,
are you thinking of pulling out the seating grant?
No,
I
we're
just saw those couple and it's only if you,
so that one is up to the board to confirm, if you will.
okay.
It has not been used a lot, but I have heard from a couple of business owners that, they've got some plans to do things that it would be beneficial. I don't think it's going to stop their project, but it could be beneficial. So if you want to include that, like I said, if it doesn't get used, then it doesn't get used.
Well, yeah, and maybe it's just good to have it for like one more fiscal year after the HGTV renovation for any new tenants that
That's
come
kind of how I
in.
felt.
Yeah.
So everything kind of like
Yeah.
is consistent.
And I mean, it might not be a huge incentive, but it does something out there for somebody that might be on the fence whether they want to spend the money or not.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if it doesn't get used this year, I mean, that would be 2 years in a row it didn't get used.
Yep, we had one last year with Chef Mac.
Okay. Yeah, we had one with Chef. I forgot about his. We could pull it. And you don't have to carry this stuff forever. So, I mean, I think
Gotcha.
that one more year is probably worthwhile.
I think so. Just because some of the places are doing improvements and different things, they might need
Yeah.
more furniture. So yeah.
All right. Next up is the Centennial mural restoration. This is the property over on South Ridgewood, across from the old Legacy Bicycle Shop. It's I'm gonna call it a warehouse at this point, but they had painted the airplane on it, and the propeller was the fan that's in there. We had a request, a facade request grant that came through earlier to repaint the building. The owner wanted to hold out until we could find out if we could touch up the mural. The purchasing policy just changed at the last city council meeting. That's what we've been kind of waiting on. The way it was written, the original artist was the only one who could kind of come in and do that, and the original artist lives in Austria or something. So to bring him back to touch up the mural was kind of not financially reasonable. So Freddie, who did the murals for HGTV and did the painting on the around the circle on the streets, he can do it now. And this is strictly if the CRA wants to do it. We have found no documentation that shows that when it was originally done, that the city or CRA was on the hook to pay for maintenance of it. We have a way to go ahead and do it now. The owner has held off on doing that. If we do not approve it, then they're probably just going to paint over it.
Who did it originally?
What's his
Who
name?
commissioned it?
Who commissioned it or who did? So it was done during the city's centennial celebration in 2012.
Okay, so they approached whoever the owner was of the property at that
At
point
that
and said,
point in
can
time,
we paint on
correct.
your wall?
But we
Okay.
have no records that we've been able to find as far as an agreement with who would have paid for that on the
It was just
document.
that one time they didn't
Right.
discuss it any further. Okay.
So the lot in front of it is the same owners?
No.
No. And so we don't really know what's going to happen with that lot in front of it. So if somebody builds something right up to that mural,
It would go unseen. Correct. Do we know what the difference in cost is between Freddie and what it would cost to repaint that one side?
I do not.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it's not like it's gonna be an immediate.
I think it speaks to maybe a little bit larger thing in my head anyway. And I know we've had a discussion before where we were talking about whether we were going to do a grant for murals.
Mhm.
And the way I remember it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is the temperature was kind of lukewarm about the CRA stepping in the middle of much of that. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing for us to do. I just think if you're going to do this one, then you better put a few others on the list that's going to be coming around. So
Originally, when we
I think it's
discussed
going to
it,
be a
that it was
package
the
deal.
HGTV murals, we said we would look at updating those, but we wouldn't take on any mural that was in the district.
Right. And yeah.
Are there any other murals in that district?
There are a few others.
Okay.
I understand that they start looking
They
not
have
as
to
good
be
as they
maintained.
used to, and you almost want the owners to do something with it. I don't think we can necessarily put the onus on ownership of the property to forever and ever take care of the decision that somebody else made.
I agree.
in most cases, so that's always a sticking point. But unless we take that responsibility on clearly and say, yes, we're going to be doing this and we'll be doing it going forward,
I feel like
it's
somebody
going to
has
be hard to draw a line and say, yes, this, no, this, and that's. That's the part I have an issue with, is how do you decide if you do want
Well, like Lake
or the ones
Placid,
with
they have
HDTV?
they have Mural Society that maintains their murals and they pay for the maintenance of those
Right,
murals.
but do we want to do that?
I think like with the HGTV murals, I feel like somebody has to do that, whether it's us or the city or there's just the historical society. You know, there's an organization that takes on the fundraising for that cost. I feel like if we don't have a maintenance schedule in place, it was going to be great when it happened, and then it's in 10 years it's going to look terrible.
So what if, all right, to the issue of trying to control the cost of other murals, what if we paid, and see, this gets a little complicated. I'm sorry, I'm gonna talk out loud or think out loud here a minute. I mean, my first thought is, well, what if we just agreed to, if you were going to maintain the mural, we would pay what it would cost to paint over it, and then they would take the additional cost above that. But I'm not sure that that would necessarily work, because you could come in and get a facade grant and paint over the whole thing.
And
Right.
correct, and that's what I think is going to happen. I know in this case, for instance, specifically, that was the direction they were thinking anyway,
Yeah.
and they were just like, wait a second, before we do this, we probably should ask if somebody wants to maintain this.
Correct.
They have no interest in maintaining it. And I don't blame them. I'm not pointing fingers.
But
I'm
I
just
think it's
saying I
nice
think
that
you'll
they're
have a lot of
asking.
that.
I think it's nice that they're asking, you know, and they're not
Absolutely.
just like painting
Sure.
over it.
Absolutely.
So the murals that were done by HGTV, we did agree to touch up, I think, every 2 years or something. So
Was there a time frame associated with that?
yeah, I mean,
Especially the ones on the ground.
yeah. Now it wasn't that we had to do it in 2 years, but if it needed it in 2 years, we would.
Right.
You know, we wouldn't wait 5 years, for example. You know, this one's a little bit harder in my mind, and I throw this completely to the board. I can see both sides of the argument, you know, and I don't know that I really care in a specific instance one way or the other. I think I'm more concerned about y'all's point that, okay, well, what happens, you know, to all the other ones? I mean, Mei-Li's got one.
Oh, that's right. And there's this kind of.
TDC has a
Or the
mural.
ones
But
that's not there yet.
didn't the TDC do that mural on Maylee's?
No, we
No.
did.
We did that with a facade grant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there are other murals that are down there. So I think if I was looking at this by myself, I'd say, okay, well, how many murals are we talking about? Do I appreciate the mural itself? You know, do I want to keep that, you know, going, or is it not important to me? And that's where it becomes a board decision. I think if we say yes to this, you're going to get asked again for another one. And if we say no to this, then we're basically saying no to all of them other than the HGTV ones.
So
I kind of feel like almost indifferent with this one because it's the location of where this one is. I think it's great. Like, it's nice to see a mural as you're driving in, but that lot, it's not guaranteed if we put like a maintenance schedule in place for that. And I think for the business owner too, what happens if somebody decides to build something there and that's hidden?
Well,
You know, I mean, it's in a,
to that matter, they could sell the building and the new owner could paint over it,
right.
absolutely.
which would be true for any.
Any,
Yeah,
mural.
no, 100%. It's
So we're looking for wisdom from you four.
I don't know. It's a slippery slope, and it's tied to what the value of the murals for downtown. But I don't know how you answer that. I don't know how you decide what that. I understand Lake Placid.
Right.
They built a brand on that, right?
Yeah.
It's completely different
right.
than what
True.
we're doing. So I don't know how you value what that really brings. That one, I understand what you're saying. You see it when you drive in, but the shape it's in currently,
Well, that's
you
where-
don't even really.
That's why I'm saying
So-
I'm fairly indifferent to it. It's just
Right.
I'm like trying to weigh the pros and the cons of if we're creating a culture of people visiting murals downtown and we want to maintain that, are they going to walk to that mural? It's kind of off the beaten path. Is it of value to the owners to maintain the mural, and if it's not,
I think to answer that question in my mind is if we are going to do that, then this has to be a much bigger thing than just a grant for maintenance on a few murals. You would have
Be
to
like a
establish a
program.
committee and do something much more substantial and build on that. But I don't think that's what we're
right,
trying
it's
to
like
do.
somebody
I don't think
else's.
that's what we talking about doing, I guess.
I don't disagree.
I mean, the picture there looks great, but it doesn't look like that.
No. And I think the only reason that this one's got any kind of, I would say almost emotional appeal to it is because it was
Right.
done for the 100th anniversary of Sebring.
Was there any feedback from like the historical society or anything like that? No.
You see, and still, David, it's still tied to it really could be gone. You know, I know they have a lease and they asked, but that doesn't mean that the next guy does, or like you say, whoever builds in front of it is definitely not going to make any sort of concessions on their
Right.
plans to maintain that.
To make it visible.
Or do a completely different mural that highlights their business as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
celebrating the 100th anniversary of Sebring.
Yeah. I mean, the HGV things were different. That was part of a bigger commitment, and that we decided. But this, my personal opinion, I think the owner should be on the ownership. If we had a flat rate maintenance fee grant that, you know, and regardless of how big your mural was or how complicated or whatever, this is what you would get every X amount of years, I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to that. But I think when you get into this is half of a building or this is what's painted next to
Right.
these, you know, it's just not very clear on how in my head how you handle that fairly.
Since it's tied to the centennial celebration, since the city owns the SunTrust Bank, if it's that important a piece of art, then maybe that should be moved there or somewhere
Yeah.
on a building that the city actually owns. And then that way the owners of that building can do as they please.
It's a pretty good
That's
point.
a really good point. I'd go with that idea right there.
I mean, that solves a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Recreate it on the city building if
Yeah. If it's important to
Mhm.
the city and whatnot.
the city can pay for it.
Then there is a way
Takes all
to
the risk out.
Yeah.
yeah, and then it's in a place where you know that it's going to have that value, whatever it is, once it's repainted.
And if that's going to turn into parking, if there's going to be additional parking there, people will see it.
Sure.
All right, so on this one, I am going to ask for a motion. Either a motion to move forward with restoring the existing mural or a motion to deny moving forward with the existing mural. It's one or the other, come on.
I'm gonna make a motion to deny.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion from the board? Anything from the public? No.
Yes.
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 Murphy. Yeah, I know.
Yes. All right, we have no old business, no business from the audience, so we'll move into board members' remarks. I'll start down with Sarah Beth.
Don't have anything to add. It's just nice to be at something that's out of my house.
We're happy to have you here tonight. Welcome back.
I've seen the accessory committee. Did they meet today?
Yes, so the committee met today for 2 interviews. We have 2 more interviews tomorrow. And our intention is to have discussion after the second interview tomorrow, which will be 4, total of 4, and determine if we're going to bring any of those back for a recommendation. And then I think that'll hit our we're hoping it will hit our September meeting. There's a couple of caveats that we may have a little bit more negotiation to go through with one of them before we know for sure. But yeah, we're in the process of trying to do that now.
Any update with Chef Max?
So we approved the extension that we discussed at a previous meeting, the June meeting. So the Cliff, our attorney, has done the extension on the agreement. You've approved it. She's going to sign it. It still has that September 1st deadline in there. In that motion was also to have the letter of deficiency written as well. So that letter is ready to go. If she's not open September 1st, then we will send the letter of deficiency on September 1st. She'll have 30 days to correct that. If it doesn't, then we will have to see how that lands. That could land one of two ways. One, we could simply take everything back. Then that would come back to the board and we would go through the disposition process. My hope would be that if she's not going to move forward, that we could work with her to sell her entity that has the agreement with the CRA to another restaurateur. The board would have to approve that. And then move forward with getting
David,
that
would
space
that
open.
entity fall into the same, it'll basically be the same deal, just
Correct.
change the name.
Correct. That's all it would be. If
Same concept,
No.
or it could be anything.
we would want to have the ability to include different concepts.
Okay, good.
But that would be negotiated as part of it.
correct.
Part of it.
Yeah. If she doesn't agree to any of that, then it would have to go through a whole brand new disposition process. But just simply changing the ownership, the way, and I'm going to make this up. So let's say she says, nope, I'm out. I don't want to do this. And I'm willing to sell my LLC, and there's a buyer here that she wants to sell it to. Let's say they make pizza. It would come to the board for approval of that conceptual change. So you still have to approve whatever's going to kind of go in there, but it wouldn't necessarily change the disposition process that we've already been through.
Does it restart the clock?
Yes,
Yes.
it does.
Okay.
Okay.
It does.
The entire clock, or would it be a
No,
duration
it
that
would
we
be
would
just,
set?
it wouldn't be the construction phase. It would just be the 5
Correct, the
years or
5-year
whatever
time
that.
frame.
Correct.
Oh, the 5-year
was.
Which
time frame.
technically the 5-year time frame hasn't started with them.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
But she's
Since
never
construction's
Yeah.
not done.
It would just be a negotiated start date for
Correct.
16 months.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay.
Which our hope is, because they are, I mean, they're not ready right now, but they're so far along. If another operator came in, could they be up and running in, like, say, 6 weeks type idea? I don't want this to be a long drawn out,
Right.
12 months to get ready to go. I mean, I'm hoping we could turn the keys over, they'd get
Yeah,
open.
since there's a kitchen or whatever, it could be change
Yeah.
the decorations type thing.
Yeah, repaint it, do what you
Right.
need to do, and
Mm-hmm.
go forward.
I think that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
All right.
A couple, the amendments, addendums, what were they called?
Yes. I know what you're talking about.
Addendums for that will come in next month.
Yes.
It'll go to the next meeting.
Correct.
Then the second question, just to follow up, Christy, the 228 North Reachwood, I know it's for change of use that we agreed.
Mhm.
There's a new time frame in there as well, correct? That changes the clock, because I think we're in February.
We are. So I've asked this question twice of the attorney who drafted it. If
Okay.
we needed to add, because we have mini milestones and then an overall milestone. And from what I'm told, we do not need to extend the time frame because we haven't met the overall time frame deadline yet. That time is still built in there.
But does that remove our leverage on
It does not.
him not meeting the initial ones on time?
It does not, but at the end of the day, it's up to this board because you didn't have to give the extensions, but since we did, it still has an overall time frame. We have mini milestones and then the overall one. But the way our attorney interprets that, we're not at a point yet because he hasn't missed the overall completion time frame.
Uh-huh.
We're not at a point yet where we would need to do an addendum that extends the construction time frame. And I'm happy to forward you the email synopsis.
Okay, no,
because that was a
I'm
question I've
just
asked.
trying to follow the thought process. So it was going to be the exterior and first floor, and then exterior and permitting was our original first phase, and then actual construction of first and second floor, and then whatever, I can't remember where the third was, but I think was our construction time frame. That defaulted. And then it went from January 13th to February 10th, I think.
Sounds
And
right.
then we didn't talk about another date after that. We did tell him that he could work on the change of use after that February date, but that date was never actually captured anyway. That changed, correct?
And meeting minutes, but not in the overall agreement per our attorney.
And it's just gonna stay February 10th was the start then of the clock. So he's getting a discount on the overall time that he has to perform for the agreement to be completed.
At the end of it, that's where the clock starts, right?
Well, remember, we're in a different scenario
Oh,
because
that's
it's
right.
not a lease to own. He already owns the property.
I know, but there was still a time frame into where
Correct.
he had to perform
Correct.
to
He had
be
3
able
different
for that
timelines in there.
transfer to be permanent.
Mhm.
But we've already started that, but he hasn't done.
Correct.
What?
So what Willem's saying is that basically, if you had, and I'll just stick with the 5 years, you had 5 years that you had to work within, and you were supposed to be open in year 2, but you're not open till year 3 or 4.
Mhm.
You've shortened that window of longevity.
Correct.
So are we extending the window of longevity?
I think it should, but that's just in my head.
Right.
I feel like it should too, because it's kind of the same thing like what we're just talked about with Chef Max. They haven't opened yet, so their clock hasn't started yet.
Yeah, I mean,
We can fix that.
our deal
He's-
was that you
yeah.
do these things and then
Yeah.
you do it for so long and then it's yours.
I think that if I, kind of going off memory on some of this, but I don't think that Cliff wanted to change the end date until we kind of got either there. I mean, I think the board needs to revisit that. I agree with you. The construction timeline has moved 3 times.
Correct. And I'm not necessarily saying that I have a date in mind or any idea of how long. I just think if you leave that open-ended, it leaves 5 years of nothing happening. And then at the last second,
Still
it
get
could
it.
be like, hey, and then tomorrow we're done with this.
I think that
I think that's not.
so.
how
They're
it should go.
moving towards the permitting phase now, and but I think it's very reasonable to say that they're going to be done within 12 months. Robert's using a shorter timeline,
Sure.
but I think when we get to that,
But maybe we should
We
just
need
mark
to-
that date then. Instead of the February 10th date, is say, hey,
yeah,
12 months
yeah,
from February, it would be the end of construction, and then
add on.
the whatever the original time frame.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
That just sounds fair to me.
It does. I don't think I can't see any pushback to
Okay.
that.
Okay. So
I was just curious if that was in the addendum or if it was just used.
it is not, and
Okay.
I've asked on 2 separate occasions simply because we've been following the exact same mechanism for every property. I've just gotten a different response
Right.
with this specific agreement as opposed
Well,
to the other ones.
and that's a good point, and I can kind of see what he's saying, but it seems to me like if we didn't do that, we're doing the exact opposite of not what
Right.
we did with everybody else's property. It kind of
No, I
lets him
agree
off
with
the
you.
hook for that part.
So, is there any action that I need to take right now? What are my marching orders?
So what we need to do is we need to, when we get closer to, well, actually, once he gets a permit pulled, I think I need to go talk to Robert and just basically let him know that once we get to when you get the CO, we want to have you sign another addendum to the agreement that extends the timeline to the original intent.
And I don't think we can make that a reasonable amount of time. And then if he does make it early, we can still make an addendum then that moves that date up if we want to.
Yeah.
That'll still be in our use, but we can give him enough time to complete. I'm not trying to rush it. I'm just saying that'll
No,
just
you wanna
change
keep it
when the
everything
clock
the
starts.
same.
Yeah.
Does Robert have a date that he's supposed to come back to the board? Like, did he? I
He
don't
doesn't
recall
have
at
a-
our last meeting there was not an extension given for a date.
He doesn't necessarily have a hard date that we set. He is wanting to come back in October
Okay.
because they should have started construction by then, or they will at least have, he'll have something to kind of report on. I'm again, just me speaking personally, I would rather see them get started and have a better idea and understanding of when they think they're going to get completed and be able to
But I
negotiate
think
in
your
that
point
meantime.
was good. If you use the permitting process as a trigger for when that
Yeah.
talk happens, I think that's a reasonable time to say,
That's
okay,
what I'm thinking.
what does it look like at this point?
Yeah. And so, I mean, he doesn't have a permit in hand. He should have one here within the next month or so. Once he gets that, I'll approach him at that.
Right. Because if he has a permit, then the scope of the work has been defined at that
Correct.
point, and he should know exactly what what
Yes.
it's going to take to get to CO.
No, I agree. That was a good point.
That's it.
I don't have anything else.
No?
Thanks. No.
All right.
I think we got to talk about a lot. I'm good.
We did.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't have anything else either. So I appreciate y'all being here. Thank you very much.